Hi, everybody. It's Deborah from PeopleLovingAnimals.com. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching my video today. Today's video is called Exercising Elderly Dogs. We are on my website, PeopleLovingAnimals.com. It's an article that I have written called Exercising Elderly Dogs. And we're going to use this article kind of as our template for our video today to make sure that I cover all the points and give you all the good ideas that I have to share with you. I will, in the description box of this YouTube video, I'll give you the link to go to this article on my website. So don't feel like you have to, try to pay attention to what's going on here. Again, I'm just using it as my template. You can go to the article yourself. You can read everything. You can click all the links in it. Okay? So we're going to just do some tips today in this video on how to exercise your elderly dog or your senior dog, most importantly, in a safe way. If you're here looking on this topic, then obviously you have some concerns about your dog who is aging, and maybe you don't know whether you should be exercising your elderly dog or if it is safe to exercise your elderly dog, or what things are safe and okay to do as far as physical exercise for your elderly dog. So we're going to go over a lot of that stuff. First of all, I have had elderly dogs. In the picture here, you'll see my little dachshund Taz. If you are already a subscriber to this YouTube channel, you've heard me talk about Taz before. She's the little logo on my PeopleLovingAnimals.com website sitting up here protecting all her toys. Now, as you can see from the picture, she has almost a totally gray face. Now, Taz, I rescued her from an animal shelter, and when I got her, she had the gray face, and then I had her for 6.5 years. Now, when I first got her, my vet estimated her age to be about 7 or 8 years old, and that was based on the graying of the face, also the condition of her teeth, which was terrible, and also her jowls, he said. So he estimated her age to be about 7 or 8 the time that I got her. And I had her for 6.5 years. So I estimated the dog lived to be around 14 years old. And so she did have a lot of the issues that are very common in elderly dogs. And then after Taz, I also had a Boston Terrier named Cagney, who I'm sure you've heard me talk about as well. And Cagney Cagney passed away at about 12 years old. And 12, 14, that's pretty old for a dog. So we're gonna talk about all of this stuff. Now, just in case you don't know, how do you calculate how old your dog is in people terms? You do it by multiplying their age by 7. For example, if you have a 5-year-old dog, you multiply it by 7, and that puts them at the age of 35 in people years. Okay. If you have a dog who is 10 years old, you multiply it by 70. So theoretically, they're about 70 years old in people years. So that's just a really good way to kind of judge, okay, my dog is 5 years old. How old is that? Well, that puts him at around 35 years old. That's still a pretty young dog. This dog is 10 or 12 years old. That puts him at 70, 75 years old. So it kind of just helps you to judge. And when you're thinking about whether or not you should be exercising your elderly dog, think in terms of, if your dog is 10 years old, then he's around 70. And just think, what would a 70-year-old person what would a 70-year-old person be doing? For example, a 70-year-old person is perfectly capable of going for walks every day, perfectly capable of swimming, perfectly capable of going out in the yard and throwing a ball around. A 70-year-old person is not too old to do that. But obviously, they're not going to be at the same ability level as somebody who's 25 or even 35 or even 45. The 70-year-old is going to be a little different. So in my mind, that's just a really good way to try to figure out at every age what's appropriate for your dog. Now, as dogs get older, they don't need as much physical activity because they're getting older, but they do still need physical activity. Senior dogs are very content to sleep a lot and relax, just like an elderly person. They sleep a lot, but you know what they say, move it or lose it. Whether you're a person or a dog, you got to keep things moving to stay healthy. Exercise helps deliver oxygen to their tissues. It stimulates blood flow. It helps to remove toxins, and And another very important point for an elderly dog, just like an elderly person, is it keeps the bowels moving. And that's important. You know, you've got to get your dog up and move it around so that they can have a bowel movement, so that they don't get constipated. And if you're not having a bowel movement, whether you're a person or a dog, you've got toxins building up in your colon and it's not healthy. So these are all the reasons it is important to keep your dog exercised. A couple more things I list in the article: that keeps their muscles strong, it keeps their joint flexible, and also it helps them manage their weight. You know, if you have a dog who is getting older, then, you know, if they're not doing as much physically, then they can't eat the same amount of food they've always eaten because they're not burning it off. So if you have an elderly dog and they're not, and they might be having a weight problem, first of all, I'm going to try to remember to link in this video. I do have an article and a video on helping your dog lose weight. So if that's one of the issues, and if that's one of the reasons you're here is because your older dog is getting fat and you're thinking about exercising him, you might also want to watch the video about how to help your dog lose weight, because that's going to give you a lot of really great tips on helping them lose weight. So exercising your elderly dog will help them to lose weight. But we're going to talk about safety issues. Hang with me here, please, until the end of the video, because there's a lot of safety issues that we need to discuss. So your dog, it needs to keep moving, needs to keep exercising. Otherwise, they're going to have a weight problem. And just like with people, an overweight dog is at risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all kinds of things, just like people. And also, just like with people, if you're developing a serious weight issue, it's hard to get around. It's hard on your heart. It's hard on your organs. It's hard on your joints. You know, so a lot of the same common sense that applies to us also applies to our dogs. So we're going to talk about some safety things. Provide a level of physical activity that's appropriate for the dog. Now, first of all, whenever you get a dog to begin with, you should choose a breed that matches up with your activity level. For example, if you want a dog who can go out and run 5 miles with you every morning, then you got to get a breed who's capable of doing that. But what you have to keep in mind is if you do own a breed, for example, that has been, for example, running 5 miles with you every morning his whole life, as he gets older, he's not going to be able to do that. So you have to start making accommodations for your senior dog. Just because he's always run 5 miles with you every morning doesn't mean that he still can. Again, when he's reaching the age of 70, 75, even 60, do you know what I mean? If your dog's heading, you know, past 7 or 8 years old, then you're looking at a dog who is becoming elderly, and you have to start making arrangements. You might have a dog that ran 5 miles with you every day, but now he can't make it over to the neighbor's house and back. Okay. Now what you have to do is you have to allow that. If your dog can't do that anymore, you have to make sure that you're not forcing him to do it anymore or expecting him to do it anymore. Because, you know, if you expect your dog to do something, dogs are people pleasers, and if they can't do it for you, it's going to lower their self-confidence, and it's going to create stress and unhappiness for them. So not only do you want them to not be in any, you know, physical danger, but you don't want them to be in any emotional danger, that they're going to feel like they can't be successful in life, or worse, from a dog's point of view, if they feel like they can't please you. So you have to really pay attention to the signs that your dog might be having difficulties. Now we're going to talk about this a little bit further in the article. Oops, I'm sorry. But you have to pay attention. Like when I had Taz, one of the things that the vet told me, because Taz and I had walked and walked. Now, when I got the dog, we walked all over the place. We went to all the, we went to all the parks in my neighborhood and everything. We walked all the time. Well, then, you know, she started to become older. She started to have some health problems. And so I said to the vet, you know, is it okay for me to be walking her and everything? And he said, let her dictate. If she's ready to go home, let her go home. If she's sitting down on the walk, and you can't get her to keep going, if she's not interested in going for the walk to begin with, you know, a lot of times we give dogs too much credit as far as what we think their thought process is. Oh, geez, she must be depressed. She's not interested in going for a walk. Or she must be mad at me. She's not interested in going for a walk. Or, oh, the dog's really lazy today. She keeps sitting down on the walks. We give them too much credit. They don't think in that sort of a, complex way. It's back it up a notch. The dog's just plain tired. The dog doesn't feel physically capable of going for a walk. The dog's no longer enjoying the walk, or the dog is afraid of the walk because the last time they went out on the walk, they were having difficulties and it scared them. They're sitting down on the walk. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. If your dog is showing signs of slowing down, then you've got to accommodate for them. So, for example, walking, don't expect them to walk so far. Or if you have a small dog, like little Taz, as she got older, I would pick her up a lot of the times. Now, sometimes I would pick her up and she would kick, kick, kick. She wanted to be put back down. Well, that's a pretty clear indicator that the dog's okay with walking. Okay. But if you pick your little dog up on a walk and they're content to let you carry them, that's a pretty good sign that they need a little help and they're not doing so hot with the walking. Now, eventually, I ended up getting a little buggy for Taz, and if you've been here before, you've probably seen pictures of Taz in the buggy. And when she was too old and she couldn't walk as much, I would take her around in the buggy. And I did the same thing with the Boston Terrier. And if you go to this YouTube channel under the playlist Cute Animal Videos, you'll see videos of the Boston Terrier Cagney in the buggy, and it's really cute. The buggy was pink, and that's why he was in a pink buggy, because it was Taz's buggy. It was the Wiener Dog's buggy to begin with. But anyway, these are the sorts of things you have to really keep your eye out for, really pay attention to the dog, see what kinds of things they might be having trouble with, and then make accommodations for them. Taking your senior dog for a walk. If you choose to exercise outside with your dog, make sure that the weather is suitable. Dogs can get heat stroke, they can get frostbite, and senior dogs are even more vulnerable to this. So again, if your dog has always been okay playing out in the snow or going on a nice long walk for you in the winter, they may not be okay now as they get older, okay? Their heart's not pumping as strong. They're not getting blood to their tissues. They can't keep their body warm like they did when they were younger. So again, really just use today's video to really evaluate your dog. How are they doing? Are they slowing down on the walk? Do they not want to go outside as often? Are they having difficulty going over to the water dish and back, or the food dish? Is your dog eating and drinking less? Okay, but just make sure it's not because he doesn't want to make the trip to the food dish. You might want to make the house a little bit easier for your dog. You might want to relocate their food dish and their water dish so that they don't maybe have to walk so far to get it. If your dog's having to go up and down stairs in your house for any reason, whether it's to go outside or whether it's to go to bed, you might want to make accommodations for the dog. If your dog, for example, is all of a sudden having troubles jumping up on the couch, or all of a sudden having troubles jumping up on the bed, you may want to make accommodations. We're going to talk about things like dog ramps and things in this article. But, I think that sometimes we just get wrapped up in the distractions of our own lives and we get busy and we just don't realize that the dog is having difficulties, and dogs, I feel so bad. It's one of my biggest heartaches in life is the fact that our animals can't communicate with us. I've always felt so bad about that, because I realize the dog is having an issue, or the cat, and then afterwards I'm kicking myself. I said, geez, I should have known it. It was so clear. I should have known it. And then afterwards we're like, so I think we just regularly have to just evaluate how things are for our animal. Are things okay? Are they making their way okay? Are they eating okay? All these sorts of things. Just a simple example, if your dog's not eating, he's not interested in eating, they could have an abscessed tooth. And again, keep it simple. A lot of the times it's just a simple cause and effect thing. Why doesn't the dog want to eat? Well, maybe there's something physically wrong with his mouth. Why does the dog not want to go outside? Maybe it's because the dog is too tired. Maybe the dog is, in some sort of physical pain or something. So we have to constantly be evaluating. Now, If you live in a cold climate and you're walking your dog outside, I would encourage you to read this article, Dogs in Cold Weather. You'll see the link within this article. Please go ahead and read that because it gives you really good indicators of how to know when it's too cold for your dog. And again, if your dog's getting older, they're going to be more vulnerable to the cold, and they're going to be more vulnerable to the heat as well. Okay, so just keep those things in mind if you're exercising your dog outside. Playtimes, some of the things you can do for a senior dog to give them exercises, to give them some interactive toys. This is a toy called Tailspin Flyer. It's basically a fabric frisbee. It throws like a frisbee. They can catch it like a frisbee, but it's made of a softer fabric than a frisbee. And so it's good for their old teeth, their old mouths. It's a little bit easier for them to catch, a little bit easier for them to chew on. It's just one little suggestion. Also, interactive toys. This is a wonderful way to not only provide some exercise and activity for your senior dog, but also to keep his mental abilities sharp. And I give you the link here for a whole bunch of interactive toys for senior dogs. That's one of the ways. Maybe your dog can't physically go for a walk anymore, or maybe they can only, go outside long enough to do their business and come back in. And so you're looking for ways to exercise your dog in the house. And that's, these interactive toys are one of the things you could do. Now, one of the things that I did with Tazzy when she was getting older is I bought her this little rope toy to play tug of war. And you have to be careful with an elderly dog because obviously they're elderly. They might have joint pain and stuff. Their teeth aren't that great. So you don't want to be pulling their teeth out. But I would just let her tug on that. And it's a good thing to let her win, because it will boost their confidence. They'll play a little tug of war with one of their toys, but, let them tug a little bit, get a little bit of exercise, but let them win. And don't get too violent with it, especially with a senior dog. Another thing I did with Taz is Taz loved tennis balls, only the squeaky kind. If it didn't squeak, she wasn't interested. But all the time I had her for 6.5 years, squeaky tennis ball was her favorite toy. Well, she couldn't really fly out in the yard and run after the tennis ball. And after a while, she couldn't even run down the hall after the tennis ball anymore. She just became too old. So I would just roll it around on the living room floor a little bit. Just get on the floor, roll the tennis ball around a little bit. Or if your dog is able, throw the toy or the ball down the hall, let them run down and back until they're winded, and again, this is one of the indicators of deciding whether your physical activity level is okay for your dog. Are they panting too much? Panting is okay. You want them to get a little cardio in, but you don't want them panting to the point where they're drooling and they can't, do you know what I mean? Just like us. I don't know about you, but I remember in gym class back in high school, oh my God, you would want to throw up. They would make you run so many miles or whatever. And, you feel like you're going to actually throw up. I have seen kids in high school actually throw up from what they're making us do in gym. Just think about that for yourself. Like, how does it feel when you overdo it? What do you look like? Are you panting? Are you drooling? Same thing for your dog. So again, just do these exercises with the toys in the house, or whether you're still out in the yard with your dog, but just pay attention to them and see how they're reacting to it. Provide good nutrition. This is important for your dog at any age. There is an article that I'm linking here, Compare Healthy Dog Foods. That's a great article on my website about knowing, how to feed your dog. Also providing a vitamin and mineral supplement. This is one I'm giving you a link to. It's specifically made for senior dogs. And usually these are chewable beef flavors, for example. Tazzy loved her vitamins. She thought they were a treat. You do need to provide good nutrition just for your dog's overall health and well-being, but you have to pay, I think, more attention to nutrition as they get older because they have issues. Obviously, they have bowel movement issues. They have heart issues. Some dogs have really serious health issues like congestive heart failure, these sorts of things. And also the weight issue, again, is a problem with an elderly dog. And so if your dog their activity is going down, therefore they're getting fat, one of the things you can do is start making some nutritional changes. For example, with my last two dogs, the wiener dog named Taz and the Boston Terrier named Cagney, both of those dogs sadly died of congestive heart failure. So that was another factor in my decision making for them when they were elderly. But one of the things was for both of them was a weight issue. And some of the things that I did for them, for example, was I would crunch up baby carrots and I would give them carrots. Both of them loved carrots. Like instead of treats, instead of the milk bones, instead of the store-bought, packaged dog treats, which are full of calories and full of chemicals and crap too, by the way, you're better off cutting up vegetables for your dog and giving your dog vegetables as their treat. It's better for their health. They don't get all the chemicals and crap that they put in dog treats now. So both Taz and Cagney, they would have a little broccoli floret. Taz loved blueberries. She loved them. Also on this YouTube channel and also on my website, you'll see articles for foods that are toxic to dogs. There are several foods that are toxic to dogs. So please look at that video. Go on my website, look it up. And I'll try to remember to link it in the article. But, there are some things that dogs can't eat. But, just give them vegetables. It's the best thing. Cagney loved green beans. Both Cagney and Tazzy loved peas and carrots. I just put them in a bowl. One of Cagney's favorite lunches, because I had to give him food throughout the day because he was on so many medications and everything, I would just cut up a little tomato and put it on a plate. He loved tomatoes. So that's just a really good tip for your dog that, first of all, the good nutrition of eating the vegetables is just going to be good for them. Also, the fiber in the vegetables is going to be great for their bowel health. And also just for their weight management as they get older, you might want to cut down the dog food a little bit and mix in some vegetables. Mix in some vegetables with it. It'll be less calories. The dog will be happy. Instead of milk bones and dog treats or, stuff that you give them that's putting the weight on, try switching it out for some vegetables. Now, I found with these last two dogs that I had, they both loved it. And I think they liked it even more because they're getting something from the fridge. So they think it's people food. It is people food, and they like it even better. So that's just one tip that you can do for your elderly dog for their nutrition and their weight management. Swimming is also a great exercise for dogs. I'm sorry, my internet is not keeping up with me today. I'm flipping around the screen here. I'm sorry. I know it's irritating. Swimming is a great exercise for your senior dog, but I know I don't have to say it, but please, safety, 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 safety. Don't ever, ever leave a dog of any age unsupervised near water, because even if you've got a black lab that can fly out into the lake and catch a stick and come swimming back, even if they're in perfect health, even if they're an expert swimmer, dogs can get cramps just like people. Dogs can have a health issue. They can throw up. They can have things just like people. You got to be so careful and always supervise your dog when they're in the water, especially an elderly dog. You can purchase a life jacket. I give you a couple of links here. They do make life jackets for dogs. So you can put the life jacket on the dog if you're going to have the dog in the pool with you and the kids maybe, or if you're going to take the dog to the lake or whatever. Keep the water temperature in mind. An elderly dog is going to be more bothered by cold water, a sudden, cold water. Again, let them judge. Let them decide whether they want to get in the pool. Let them decide whether they want to get in the lake, whether they want to swim. Don't put any stress on your dog at any age, and don't make them fearful. But you can get a life jacket for a dog, especially if you have a dog who has been swimming his whole life and he just really enjoys it and he wants to be in the pool with the kids, or he wants to be in the lake with you and your family, and he's just slowing down. Get him a life jacket. Get him a life jacket because it'll help keep him afloat, and he can still swim and enjoy the family without, having to struggle so hard to stay afloat. But just please remember that even with a life jacket, always supervise your dog. Always make sure that they're okay if they're near water. Okay. But just like with old people, a lot of old people, they'll go and they'll get aquatic therapy, or they'll exercise in their pool. You see, the movies on TV with a bunch of old ladies in rubber bathing caps doing pool aerobics, Well, that's why, because when your body is older, you have joint pain, all these sorts of things, and it's a lot easier to physically move your body underwater. And so the same is true for dogs. It's a less painful, I guess, is the biggest thing, way to exercise for an elderly dog. Make sure your dog gets outside. Now, this is one of the things when dogs slow down. A lot of people just keep the dog in the house all the time. They go out and do their business and that's it. Dogs need to be outside. They need to be outside, even if they can't go for walks as often, or even if they can't go for walks at all. You got to get them outside. Now, like for me, the last two dogs I had, I took them in a buggy. Now, I personally am a walker myself. I walk between 2 and 5 miles every day. So every dog I've had has always done these walks with me. But the last two dogs I had, when they got too old and they both had congestive heart failure when they were older, they weren't able to do the walks. I put them in the buggy. So I went for my walk. They were content in the buggy. Cagney loved having one of his rawhide bones in the buggy, and he would just joyfully chew on that bone and ride along in the buggy. And Taz would ride along in the buggy. And so even though they're not really exercising, it's more activity than laying in bed at home. Plus, they need the sunshine. They need the vitamin D. They need the fresh air. Dogs need to walk around in the grass. They need to sniff the grass. They need to be outside. So keep that in mind with your elderly dog. Again, keep temperature in mind if it's too hot outside, if it's too cold outside, but just make sure they get some outside time. And again, it's good for their confidence level, and it's good for their happiness level, and it's good for their confidence, their happiness, their overall well-being, their physical health. It's good for them to be outside. And a couple of suggestions I make in the article is that your dog might be content to lay in the grass while you're doing gardening, or they may enjoy snoozing on a dog bed on the patio while you're barbecuing. Okay, take a dog bed outside. If the family's outside, chances are your dog wants to be outside. So bring their little doggy bed out there. Don't make his old bones lay on the cement or even on the hard ground. Take a doggy bed out there. Let him lay in the grass. Let him lay on the patio. Let him be outside. Let him enjoy his life for as long as he can, and make accommodations for him. Well, there's the next paragraph. Make accommodations for your dog. Be open-minded about it. Some things that become a habit, we just do things the way we've always done them. But as your dog gets older, he may not be able to do the things that he used to do. Maybe your dog used to get you up at 5 a.m. every morning, and now he's still snoozing at 7:30. That's okay. If he's getting older, it's okay. Maybe he used to wolf down his breakfast in 90 seconds, but maybe now he munches on it slowly and it takes him all morning to finish it. Well, you know what? He doesn't have the teeth that he used to. All right. That, again, keep it simple. Might just be that. Takes him longer to eat his breakfast. By the way, if you have always given your dog hard, crunchy food and you find they're having any sort of difficulty eating, it might be because of their teeth. So you might want to switch to a canned dog food, or you might want to moisten their dog food, or you might want to lessen the dog food a little bit and bulk it up with some vegetables that are maybe softer and easier to chew. Just again, keep that in mind. Make sure that they are physically able to eat their food. Again, like I talked about earlier, if your dog can't get up on the couch anymore, or can't get up in bed with you, you might want to get a dog ramp. I give you a link here. I also had a small set of carpeted stairs, those little carpet stairs. I had actually bought them for an elderly cat, but my little wiener dog ended up using them to get up on the couch. Again, make his getting around the house easier. Make things easier for your dog, because you want him to be able to enjoy himself. And you can imagine how depressing it must be for a dog. Think about people too. When you're getting older and you're not able to do the things you want to do, you used to go out in the yard and you can't do it anymore. Or you used to, play ball, or you used to do this, or you used to do that, and now you can't do this. And one thing after another, it's the pain of aging. One thing after another goes to pot. And it's depressing, and it's depressing for the dog too. So if you can help to build their confidence and help to make things so that they can still do things, he may not be able to jump up on the bed anymore, but if he can walk up his dog ramp, he can still get on the bed, and he's still happy and he feels confident about that. So, keep their emotions in mind as well. Now, another thing that I want to talk about here is the fact that as your dog gets older, they may be losing their sight and their hearing. Now, my little Taz did not ever lose her sight, but she did go deaf. And I also had a dachshund before her named Maggie, who also went completely deaf. Cagney, the Boston Terrier, was both deaf and blind. Unfortunately, Cagney had terrible cataracts, and he did eventually go blind. And I only had Cagney the last couple of years of his life. And by the time I owned him, it was too late for him to have cataract surgery because he already had the congestive heart failure and he wasn't able to have the surgery. So he did, in fact, go totally blind. So Cagney went a couple of years being totally deaf and totally blind. And so, again, you need to be aware of this. You know, if you're calling your dog and he's not listening, one of the first indicators for me when I first had a dog go deaf, and that was 2 dachshunds ago, that was Maggie. One of my first indicators to realize that dog was going deaf is she would become startled if I'd walk up on her. And I thought, geez, what's the matter with the dog? Well, I finally figured it out. She can't hear me. She can't hear me approaching. So I would startle her, you know, when I would come into her view. So that's one of the things. But again, evaluate your dog. If your dog is 7 or 8 years old or older, they may very well not be hearing as much. They may very well not be seeing as much. Now, without even talking about the physical difficulties, the fear. Again, the fear. Can you imagine, the fear if you can't see as well anymore, if you can't hear as well anymore, especially if you go completely blind or completely deaf? It creates a fearful situation. So you really have to pay attention to your dog and make sure that if they're having these problems, again, is your dog having a hard time making his way out in the yard? Is he having a hard time getting to his water dish? It might be he can't see. Might be able to see, he can't see the damn thing. He can't make his way around the house as well. Can't catch a ball as well. These sorts of things. It might be an eyesight thing. If your dog is easily startled when you walk up to him, he might be losing his hearing. If you're coming home from work and your dog doesn't meet you at the door when he's always met you at the door, could be he didn't hear you. You see? So you've got to just pay attention because they might be losing their sight. They might be losing their hearing. And you do have to pay attention. And again, you have to do things to accommodate for that. You have to be their eyes. You have to be their ears. You have to help them with that. Okay. Like for example, with the deaf dog, one of the things I would do, well, one of the things you can do, for example, with a deaf dog is as you're approaching the dog, you can stomp your feet as you're approaching because the floor will actually vibrate and they'll feel the vibration and they'll know you're coming. Also, just keep it in mind, get like in their view when you're not right on top of them so that you don't startle them, those sorts of things. Dogs do miraculously well though. Cagney, boy, that dog was completely blind and deaf for about 2 years, I would say, and he could really make his way around. He knew his way to his bed. He knew his way to the living room. He knew the way to our bedroom. He knew the way to the food dish. He could walk over and sit by the front door when he had to go outside. He knew his way around our house. It was amazing to me. It was amazing. But I also realized when he's out that door, I need to hold on to him. Cagney would literally walk into a person's garage, thunk his nose. He would literally walk into a garage. He would have these things happen. And the older he got and the more blind he got, the more I had to watch out for him because he didn't see things. And it obviously becomes a huge danger if they're walking near the street, if they're walking out in front of a car, even if they're walking in front of an oncoming bicycle, all these sorts of things. And, the other thing, it's a different story for a different video, is when dogs become frightened, they can get aggressive. They can nip, they can bite just out of fear. Okay. So again, that's just another thing to keep in mind as your dog is getting older, that you might need to be a little helpful being their eyes and ears. Don't expect your dog to behave like a young dog. Certainly don't punish them if they don't. Bladder control issues are a huge thing for a senior dog. If the dog cannot hold their bladder for as many hours as they did when they were younger. If you've always gone to work 9 to 5 and you come home and your dog has never had a problem and all of a sudden they're peeing on the rug, again, don't overthink it. The dog's not mad at you. Dogs can't think that way. He literally couldn't hold his bladder. If you have a good dog who's been housebroken the whole life and all of a sudden they're making messes on the house, you can bet they're having a hard time holding their bladder. And that's what happens. I personally, at this moment, I am 51 years old. I go to the bathroom several times a day. I can't hold my bladder. Now, I'm an extremely healthy woman. I don't have any major health issues, but just due to my age, I can't hold my bladder as long as I used to. And the same is with dogs. They need more potty breaks. They need to go out more often. Don't punish them for having accidents in the house. You need to make the accommodation for them. Now, also keep in mind, I'll mention it because congestive heart failure is a very, very common issue for older dogs. The last two dogs I had congestive heart failure. And because of that illness, they have to take Lasix or some sort of diuretic, a water pill. Well, Cagney could only hold his bladder for 4 hours. I had a 4-hour limit with Cagney. If I was going to be gone more than 4 hours, I either need to come home or I needed to have somebody stop over and let Cagney outside. He could not hold his bladder. So you got to make those kinds of accommodations when you have an elderly dog. Now, some people wouldn't agree with this, but I don't really care. My last two dogs, they both were dying of congestive heart failure. They were both on a diuretic. They were both having so many difficulties toward the end. And Cagney, I taught to pee on a towel at night. I did not want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to let the dog out. I live in a cold climate. I did not want to get up and get bundled up and have Cagney and I out in the cold at 3 o'clock in the morning. Cagney was unable to do stairs. I had to carry him up and down the stairs to go outside. I didn't want to do that at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I had a designated area of my house. I got a bunch of old towels, like from the Goodwill, and I would put towels down. Now, luckily, Cagney was a super intelligent dog, and I was able to easily teach him to go on the towels. I just led him to the towels and let him pee there. And at night, Cagney would get up and he would go out and pee on the towels and come back to bed. Now, Tazzy, I set up a little area on our patio with towels. And what I did was I put a plastic garbage bag underneath and then I put towels there. And it was just her little designated area for her to pee. And then I would just put the towels in a garbage bag and I would wash the towels in my washing machine with bleach. That's what I would do. And it was a lot of work and it was a big hassle, but she couldn't go out in the yard. She was disabled. She was so elderly. You know, this was like the last 6 or 8 months of her life. She could barely make it outside and stuff. So, you know, I just made accommodations all along the way. I made accommodations for my dogs as they got older. And one of the things you have to make an accommodation for is holding their bladder. They need to have more potty breaks. And again, don't punish them for not being able to do the things that they used to do. Okay? You have to accept them for what they are. They're an old dog. All right. Speaking of that, watching them slow down can be difficult. I know that it is so heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking to watch the activity levels in your dogs decrease over time. Just like with humans, slowing down is a natural part of life. It's a natural part of aging. But you know, you got to think of it this way. Like I say in the article, when you're 90, do you really want somebody tossing you into a swimming pool? Do you want them dragging you out for walks at the park every morning? Do you want them to toss a ball and expect you to run after it when you're 90, when you're 80? You know what I mean? So don't expect it of your dog. And you know, you just gotta let them slow down, let them do things at their own pace. But I do know that it is so heartbreaking. And you know, again, it's one of our biggest pitfalls as dog owners is a dog's life is only, you know, generally 10. I think the most is maybe 17 years, 10 to 12 years, 12 to 14 years. It's just as long as we're going to be able to have them. That is their lifespan. And so any of us who are animal lovers, we lose many in our lifetime. I've lost many dogs and cats, and it's so heartbreaking. It's so hard to see them struggle. It's so hard to see them have to give up the things that they used to be able to do that they can't do anymore. It's very heartbreaking. But you know, the best thing you have to do, you got to make the right decisions for your dog. You have to make the right accommodations for your dog. You have to have compassion and patience with your dog. And you have to do the best you can to make their senior years as happy and as content and as confident and as safe as you can for your dog. Just try to make their everyday little doggy life as enjoyable as you can. And the best thing you can do for a senior dog is to make things easier for them. All right. I know we got off on some other subjects other than just exercising a senior dog, but if you're here on this video, you are probably facing a lot of issues with your elderly dog. And I'm sorry, I'm noticing my picture in the corner. It's so dark in here. It's getting late in the evening. I actually had some sound problems with my computer today, so I was delayed in starting this video. And I see it's actually like getting dark while I'm still recording this, but luckily we're almost done here. But you know, if you have problems with your senior dog, again, I'm just very sorry. I'm very sorry for the heartache because I know that it's very heartbreaking. But I give you a lot of credit, and I'm so happy that your dog is so blessed to have an owner like you who would be searching YouTube for videos like this. You know, you're searching for information on how to help your dog, and your dog is so blessed to have someone like you who cares enough to find out the best way to take care of them. Okay, so just cherish the time that you have with your dog. If your dog is having health issues, try not to spend too much time on the health issue and on the care issues, on the doctor visits and the medication. I know it can be so overwhelming, and we end up just wrapping our whole head around the whole issue. And then before we know it, the dog is passed. And don't waste that precious time. You know, obviously you've got to do the medical decisions, you got to do the medications, you got to do the vet visits, you got to make decisions all along the way, but please just stay conscious of the time that you have left with your dog and make it as enjoyable for them as you possibly can. Now, a couple of things before we leave. First of all, I do donate to animal charities. I've had my website, peoplelovinganimals.com, since 2015. I research products and services and issues, all having to do with dogs and cats. I've written hundreds of articles like this. I've just now started the YouTube channel where I'm starting to do videos on all these articles. And within those articles and videos, I will often recommend products or services. Like I did in this video, I recommended like the dog vitamins and some toys and stuff. And I'm an affiliate for Amazon, and a lot of times I'm giving you the link for those things on Amazon. And if you do go there and if you purchase any of these items as a result of watching my video or reading one of my articles, I do get a small commission for that. It's how I'm able to do this for a living. And also I donate 10% of all of the commissions that I earn on this YouTube channel and also on my website to animal charities. There's a link here in the article, and it's also goes to the homepage of my website where you can see a list of the animal charities that I donate to. So for that reason, I would like you to please share this video with your friends and family who have animals. Share my website, peoplelovinganimals.com. Throw a link to me on your Facebook page, on your Instagram. Please share the information for a couple of reasons. First of all, if people are going to be buying these things for their animals, a portion of it might as well go to help animal charities. And also, my website has tons and tons of information that really, really helps people with their dogs and cats. And please refer to your friends and family because they might be having an issue that my website could help them with. Okay, I have tons and tons of articles and videos all about the health and the care and the training of dogs and cats. So I would love it if you would share it. If this video was valuable to you at all, which apparently it was if you're still with me, please give it a like. It really helps us on YouTube to get more views. And also subscribe to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, thanks so much for tuning in again. Thanks so much for supporting me and supporting animals. I appreciate it so much. And if you're not a subscriber, please go ahead and subscribe. I do a video about once a week. And again, all about the care and health and training of dogs and cats. Please always feel free to comment on any of my videos or any of my articles. If you have any questions, if there's a particular issue you need help with, please let me know. If I can, I'm happy to help. One last thing, in the description box, I'm going to give you the links to these articles. I'm also going to give you a link to sign up for my dog lovers email list. If you're a subscriber to that list, about once a week or so, you'll get an article and you'll get an email that will either contain an article or a blog post or a video all about dogs. So I would love it if you would subscribe to that list as well. Again, thank you so much for subscribing. God bless you and your dog, and God bless you for taking the time to research on how you can help your elderly dog. I've been there. I know what it feels like. So I really hope that I have helped you. Again, thanks so much for watching. My name is Deborah, and my website is peoplelovinganimals.com. Thanks again. Bye-bye.